Hi friends, Mickey Mankus here and welcome to Out the Back Door. Today I'm going to be canning up chicken thighs and they've got the bone in it, so come along and join me. I had recently put up a video on the ant and the grasshopper, wondering if you were prepared, especially for the season that we've been going through right now. And there's been a lot of rumor going around that we're going to have food shortages pretty soon. I don't know if that's true or not. A true prepper is always stocking up their pantry in preparation of an emergency. So one thing that I did suggest during that video, if you hadn't seen it, I'll leave a link to it above, is when you go grocery shopping, look for things that your family normally eats that are on sale and purchase them then. I happened to come across this chicken. My husband really likes dark meats. I found chicken thighs that had bone in them, and I'm going to can those up. They had family packs of these on sale, and they also had family packs of the chicken breasts on sale. I'm going to be canning both of these up today. I am going to season these. I'm going to leave the skin on the thighs, and that's going to give a little bit more flavor to them, and I'm raw packing them in. This way I don't have to add any additional liquid, because when the chicken cooks during the canning process, it's going to make its own juice. You may wonder, now, why are you canning up so much chicken? There's a lot of different ways that you can use chicken. I use canned chicken in salads, hot dish or casseroles, enchiladas, different things like that. I use it as lunch meats, sandwich spreads. There's so many different ways that you can use canned chicken, and it's so fast and convenient to be able to pull a jar off the shelf in the pantry that's fully cooked. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to lay these out on a baking sheet right now, and what I will be doing then is I'm going to season them. It's just convenient to put them on the tray here. And the chicken breasts, I'm just going to cut them in chunks so that they fit. I'm using pint jars, but I'm only going to add salt to this. I'm going to be seasoning these. All right, the salt that I'm going to use for seasoning the chicken, both the thighs and the breast, I'm going to be using sea salt. You don't want to use table salt because there's iodine and fillers in it. It'll make your liquid cloudy. If that's the only thing you have, go ahead and use it, but it's not recommended. So I'm just going to sprinkle some salt, pepper these. You can actually put any type of a seasoning that you want on these. If you'd like to put like a Cajun seasoning or something, that would be fine too. The only thing I recommend is do not use like an Italian herb seasoning that may have sage in it, because canned sage tends to change flavor and it gets kind of funky. So you don't want to use sage when you're canning. You can always add it afterwards once you open up your canned product, but don't do it ahead of time. So I'm going to continue doing up the rest of my chicken this way, and then I'm going to start stuffing the jars. Another way I plan on using the chicken breast is I like shredded meat sandwiches with like barbecue sauce. So this is a really good alternative, a white meat per se, instead of the shredded pork or shredded venison that I usually serve. All right, I've taken a tray of my jars out of the oven. I've got another tray in there. In fact, I've got one more tray extra to go in just in case. I started looking at the amount of chicken that I had, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to fit it all into my big canner. So I did start my smaller canner up just in case for a backup. If I don't need it, that's fine. But, all right, we're going to start stuffing. And it looks like I might only be able to get one good sized thigh in per pint. That's why I said I think I'm going to need more than one canner going. We're going to leave a 1-inch head space for these, so we can't get a whole lot in there. You're welcome to do quarts. Okay, some of these were smaller thighs, so what I'm doing is cutting up some of the other ones to get them to fill up the jars better. I mean, you could use the 1.5 pint jars, the ones they usually advertise for putting asparagus in. being I've seasoned them already, I'm not going to add any additional salt to them. I'm not going to add any liquid either, but I am going to finish up getting jars ready and put the rest of this chicken in there, and then I'm going to end up cleaning all the tops off the rims. All right, I'm going to clean all of the rims with white vinegar to make sure that we don't have any grease, residue, fat, that type of thing that would cause us any issues with a false seal. And the reason I'm using white vinegar is because it cuts grease a lot better. Okay, now that all of my rims are cleaned off really well, I'm going to put on my Tatler lids. If you're using the metal lids, go ahead and do that. That's if you were able to find any, or you had some in your stash. Okay, I've got all my bands on top of my jars and everything. Just a reminder, my jars were fairly warm when I put the cool chicken into it, and they're okay, but you don't want your water in your canner just blazing boiling, because we're introducing, I can hold on to these, they're kind of like room temp, and I don't want to have any temperature shock and crack any jars. All right, I've managed to get all of the thighs jarred up and in the canner, and I'm cutting up my chicken breasts right now. These are pretty good size, so I'm cutting them in thirds, and I'll start jarring those up. If you were doing quarts, you could put the whole breast in as is. You wouldn't have to cut it up. I'm just cutting it up into bigger chunks right now so that I'm going to be able to fit more into my jars. And we're going to be leaving 1-inch head space on all of these. Anytime we're doing meat, dried beans, that type of thing, you always want to leave a 1-inch head space. Even if you're doing, say, like soups, would need a 1-inch head space. As I was saying earlier, watch for sale prices on foods that your family eats. Canned items, canned vegetables would probably be on sale right now, being it's fall. Being the holidays are coming up soon, I'm sure that pumpkin, corn, cranberries, those items will be on sale. All right, now with the chicken breast, being I didn't season it prior like I did with the thighs, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of sea salt to each one of my pints. And you can use regular mouth jars if you want. I just choose when I have to pack it full of larger chunks of meat, I use the wide mouth. And as I said, I'm not going to add any additional liquid to this. It's going to make its own juice when it cooks up. All right, I almost forgot to wipe the tops down before I started putting the lids on. Make sure you have all of your supplies and everything ready before you start. It's going to make everything a lot easier on you than trying to scamper, kind of like me trying to get a second canner going all of a sudden, because I'm thinking, I may not have enough room for all these jars. And normally I have extra lids ready to go, and I'm going to be short a couple, so I have to hurry up and heat up a couple of more while I'm putting the bands on these and getting these into the canner. So I'm just being real here. I don't know if any of you canners out there have always had a perfect canning session. Everything's gone smoothly. Well, I tell you what, today just hasn't gone real smooth for me. So I'm just sharing that. So for those of you that are new canners, yeah, stuff happens sometimes. Kind of like I was looking at grabbing a second canner all of a sudden. I don't like that. All that's going on. There we go. Not having enough lids heated up. the meat not quite fitting properly into my jars right away. Almost forgetting to wiping off the rims before putting my lids and bands on. It's just, today's been one of those days, I'm just saying. So, there we go. All right, I'm gonna set these aside here, get these into the canner and kind of guesstimate if I should leave a couple of extra out of the large canner to put in the smaller one, or if I'm gonna be able to fit all of these in. It's really gonna be tight and I'm doubting it, but I'll come back in a moment. I've got 2 layers in here right now, but I don't have it totally filled. I could have put 5 more jars from here into the top, which would have left me with 1 jar to put in here. Well, that didn't make sense. So I did leave 6 jars out. I can fit the 6 jars in the bottom of this one also. Little tip now that I'm going to be running 2 canners, I am going to be processing this at 10 pounds. What I'm going to have to do is write down on a little piece of note paper, because once we start venting, we have to vent for 10 minutes each one. They may start at a different time. If that's the case, then I have to mark down or set 2 timers, so we've got 10 minutes venting. Once the venting's down and I put my weights on for 10 pounds, because that's our elevation, then once it actually comes up to pressure, I need to write down the time that I'm going to start, because they're not going to start at the exact same time. So to me, it's just kind of like, and being today's just kind of been one of those days, I don't want to say, oh, okay, I'm looking at the clock and I'm trying to set a timer here and I'm trying to set a timer there. And I've had power go out on me before on my range, the microwave and all that. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't remember what time I started it at. Now, I can still cook because I've got a gas range, so I still have a flame, but it's like, what time and how much more time do I have to process? So that's just a little tip. Mark it down on a piece of paper somewhere, what time you're actually starting your processing and what time you should be ending, because I'm sure most of us have digital clocks or battery-operated clocks where if the power went out, we still have a clock and we know what time it is, and so we know when we can turn our heat off. So that's just a little tip. Okay, another thing that just kind of I was not prepared is my second weight. I haven't run 2 canners for quite a while at the same time, and so I always have one of my weights is always sitting back here, and I know exactly where it is. I didn't think anything of it, you know, and I got everything else ready, and I thought, I'm running a second canner. Where's my other weight? So I had gone down into the basement, into my canning supplies, into my little box and everything, and I'm digging and digging, and I can't find it. And I'm like, where else would it might be? And I thought, I still have another little container out in the garage in my outdoor kitchen where I do my canning most of the time during the summer. And I thought, oh, please tell me. And I did find it, but it's like, please make sure you've got everything prepared ahead of time, exactly what you're going to need, so you don't go scrambling like I was doing, trying to find my weight for my other canner. Otherwise, it was like, I guess I'm going to have to take the jars out of the small one, actually load up the big one max, and have 1 extra jar just sitting there, and I'd have to cook it up for supper, but I needed a cup of coffee. Also, I forgot to mention that being the pints we're doing the meat, it's going to run for 75 minutes once we come up to pressure. If you're doing quarts, then you're going to run it for 90 minutes. So, with that said, I'm going to drink my coffee, and then I'm going to get going on dishes, and I'll be back in a little bit. All right, remember, when you remove a canner lid, even if it's water bath canning, always tilt it away from you so you don't end up with a steam burn. And now I'm actually going to let the jars sit in there for like 5 minutes more before I remove them. This is a newer recommendation from Tatler lids, because if they're still boiling in there, they're still processing. And just a reminder, if you haven't used Tatler lids before, I'll leave a link above in case you're interested in learning about Tatler lids, the reusable lids. We have to tighten the bands down when we take them out. So I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes and then I'll get back to you. All right, I'm kind of starting backwards. I'm taking out of the small canner first. And I've got, well, the chicken breast in this one. Another thing that you can use the canned chicken for that I forgot to mention is like chicken Alfredo. I just find it super convenient to be able to just pull a jar out of the pantry instead of having to pull something out of the freezer and then thawing it out and then cooking it up. I always say I'm the perfect height. I believe God created everybody the perfect height they're supposed to be. And my husband's over a foot taller than I am, and he goes, well, I think you say you're the perfect height, because I go, can you reach something down for me? And I said, but you have me grab things from way down below, so you don't have to bend over so far. So it's kind of a joke, you know, as far as I'm the perfect height, but I do need a step stool to get into my big canner. No, you're not going to see me climb up again, but I'm going to continue taking these out, and when I'm done, then I'll show you all the jars. That was my last one out of the canner. I don't know if you can see. Look at the amount of juice, broth that it made on its own, and we didn't put any liquid in it at all. That all came right from the chicken while it was cooking up. So I just wanted to share an easy way to put up more meat for your pantry, especially being the prices are going up the way they are, and everybody's kind of like concerned about possible food shortage, that type of thing, because there have been times when you go to the supermarket or something and you haven't been able to get meat, or there's a limit on how much you can get. And if you have a larger family, that can really be detrimental as far as trying to feed your family when they have limits or they're out. So when you're able to find different things like this on sale, pick them up, can them, and get them in your pantry. Or if you have to put them in the freezer, that's fine. But like I've shared before, the reason I do the canning is because in case the power goes out, I don't want to be scampering and trying to can everything up without losing all this food. So I like to be able to just go into the pantry and grab a jar off the shelf that's fully cooked already, and I don't have to go and thaw it out and everything and then cook it up. All right, we've got all the jars of the chicken out of the canner and everything. They've cooled down, but I am going to leave them until tomorrow morning. I'll take the bands off, double check the seals and everything. We'll wash them up and label them, get them down into the pantry. So I want to thank you for coming along. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell and give me a thumbs up. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. So until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless.